Yesterday upon the stair, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. Oh, how I wish he'd go away. When I came home last night at 3, the man was waiting there for me. But when I looked around the hall, I couldn't see him there at all. Go away, and don't come back here anymore. Go away, and please don't slam the door. Last night I saw upon the stair a little man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. Oh, how I wish he'd go away.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second episode of the 2019 season of Schorr Manor. We hope that your Halloween season has kicked off to a great start and that you enjoyed our first podcast. This episode is going to be one that's a little bit different than what we've done before. As you guys know, Matt is super into all things scary, and I am into all things spooky and cute. So
I do like spooky and cute, though.
Anyways.
Okay.
you guys can't see me, but I did just roll my eyes.
She really did.
So, what we did was we decided after our trip to Salem, which actually was almost now 2 years ago, Matt decided to get online and look up haunted places around Clarksville, and we went and visited them. Now, we didn't actually go inside because, you will not get me into a haunted building knowingly. But we did drive around them and just kind of saw where they were and looked around, and we didn't really see anything spooky. However, if you're into that kind of stuff, we encourage you to go out and check it out and let us know if you see anything spooky. And if you do, Matt will go with you, not me.
We'll get into each and every one of the locations that we visited, but first let me go back and just give you guys some backstory on the poem that we opened with here. This poem was inspired by reports of a ghost roaming around the stairs of a haunted house in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, Canada. And this poem was originally part of a play called The Psycho Ed, which was, find this gentleman's name, written by a poet named William Hughes Mearns. So there's the story there. As for all the locations that we visited, I went and looked up the various places in Clarksville that are considered to be haunted. I just thought it would be really fascinating to go see these places and see what's out there. And we'll start, appropriately enough, with one of the sites that we visited, Amanda Drive. Now, here's the story of Amanda Drive. I'll start off here. The report that I found on that road was, as of 2003, the building that was supposedly haunted had actually been destroyed for whatever reason. But it was located in a neighborhood and built in the early 1800s. And it was said in this building you can hear moaning and groaning going on. It's supposed to sound like a woman who is in extreme pleasure. It happens at 11 p.m., between 11 p.m. and midnight every other day. It always happens around midnight, it seems like, with this stuff. Sometimes they say you could even see a visual perspective of a young woman. The person who wrote this said, I advise you not to go, but go at your own risk. And at our own risk, we went. Am I right?
We did.
We did. We drove up and down that road. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. Of course, we weren't there at 11 p.m., but we didn't hear anything. We didn't see anything. We wondered if that one building over there was a self-storage building, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, we can only speculate. There's no way to know for sure. We wondered if that was built where whatever.
Over where the building was, but we're not entirely sure.
Yeah, there's just no way to know for certain. Kind of uneventful, that one. Least interesting. The most interesting thing to me about it was that it was named after you. We'll move on to the next location we went to, Duncan Street in Clarksville. There was actually no information about it. It was just listed as a haunted location. We went down there, and that was where the Fort Defiance Interpretive Center was located on that road. It was a creepy road when we got to it in the middle of the night.
It was extremely creepy, and we were there around 8 o'clock-ish. We we actually did this a few months ago, so it was a lot darker out when we went than it is now. And as we're turning, as we're going down the road, we come up to this cul-de-sac, and there is a guy
Yes.
pulling his dumpster up to the end of his driveway, and it was kind of chilly, so he's dressed like with a sock toboggan. And,
Actually, even a little creepier, I don't think it was a dumpster. If from my perspective,
it was a trash can, wasn't it?
it looked to me like a little kid's bike.
Oh.
I mean,
No, that's right. You're right. I had forgotten. I was thinking it was a garbage can, but no, he was pulling a bike.
I'm sure it was just his...
towards the end of the driveway. But it was weird because he was coming, like, back up the driveway towards the road, not, like, from the road down to the house. So it was pretty weird. And, of course, we weren't expecting that. So as we turned in this cul-de-sac of this wooded area, and then all of a sudden there's a guy. We're like, oh, gosh, that was a little bit...
And on top of that, there was that really steep drop-off.
Yes.
Like leading right down toward Riverside. So, yeah, just everything about it. I'm sure the guy was... I'm sure it was totally innocent. It's probably just his son's bike or something.
Yeah,
but
it was just weird, like, because it was pitch black dark outside. He's got a bike. He's pulling it towards the road instead of, like, towards the house, and... It was, of course, things are always creepier at night than they are during the day, and the whole experience was kind of creepy. We were glad to get out of that because the streets surrounding it were not exactly...
Yeah, it wasn't the best part of town.
Clarksville.
We'll just leave it at that, yeah. Nothing paranormal, though, I don't think. I didn't spot anything.
Unless he was a ghost, and nothing paranormal. But
yeah.
It was...
He looked flesh and blood to me. Okay, well, the next location we didn't go to, but we have been here. It is, of course, Tenova Hospital, formerly Gateway. The story that I found here is that a ghost was seen walking past an open door into a hallway on the first floor of the hospital, and there were no legs below the thigh level. That's all the information there. We have been to Tenova Hospital, of course, when our son was born.
And Rowan, and so this story makes me really glad that you give birth on the third floor and not the first.
I feel like, though, this shouldn't really come as a surprise that there's legends of ghosts wandering the halls of this hospital. I feel like every hospital probably has to have that.
It's weird that it's like a hallway ghost and not like a morgue, because usually when you hear about that, it's like the morgue that you normally
That's a good point.
Things
yeah.
being haunted, but...
That's true, but I guess I just feel like even though they end up in the morgue, a lot of people are going to pass away in like ICU and different hospital rooms and beds, and I just the simple truth of even the greatest hospital in the world, this is not a knock against Tenova, but the greatest hospital in the world, people do go there to die.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're going to have those kind of stories.
I feel like the first floor is for just typical like non-life-threatening patients.
Could be.
I think like the ICU and things like that are on the upper floors. Probably, I don't know why. I don't know what goes into hospital design. So if anybody out there knows, message me and let me know. I feel like maybe the hospital design is that way so that people can't get to them as easily, can't access them as easily. I think that's why the maternity ward is on like the third floor. It's very heavily protected.
That's true.
Up there, I mean, it's almost like Fort Knox to try to get in and out of.
It was, I remember.
Fort Campbell, now that we live here. But, I don't know, it's just interesting to me that it's a hallway ghost. I would think more like, the majority of the stories you hear, they're going to be, like, from the morgue, so.
Yeah, but that's all we have for that one. There's not any more information there, and we didn't go in and explore the hospital for this.
We were a little preoccupied.
Yeah. So I'll move on to our next location. This one was a little fascinating for me. It's at Austin Peay State University, the Traherne Theater. So let me just read the information that I've got on here. This says that the school's Traherne Theater has been rumored to be under watch by several spirits. During a 2002 production from the theater department, on a perfectly clear afternoon, with no rain, the cast was on stage rehearsing when suddenly the lights dimmed on and off several times at different periods of length, no more than a few seconds each time. But it was clear that there was no reason for the electricity to go out, and there was no one in the lighting booth. The lights just went on and off on their own. The third floor and stage are supposedly haunted by the ghost of a young woman that students call Margaret, who supposedly had been known to mess with elevators, doors, blockers. So this is another location that we drove up to. We found the building. Of course, not exactly hard to find. It's right there on campus, but didn't go in. Of course, when we drove by, it would have been locked anyway. But so we drove past, and when we were going past, you could see the lights on inside. Nothing ever went off and on while we went past, unfortunately. It would have been fun, but it didn't happen.
No, but it does remind me, I'm a graduate of Murray State, and I believe it was, I want to say Rather Hall, or the building next to Rather, and I can't remember. I want to say it's Wilson, but that might not be right. But I did not know at the time was supposedly haunted, and the elevators were haunted and would get stuck at different times throughout the day. I didn't know it while I had a class in there, but it was...
Hang on a second.
Sorry,
You stepped on one of Callum's toys.
That was our son's toy, not a ghost screaming. And I found out later through one of my cousins that the building was supposedly haunted, and I think she had some pretty creepy encounters. But what was creepy, it's an old building, and the elevator doors would open before the elevator had stopped completely on the floor. So there would be like an inch of space like that you would have to step down onto the floor, and then the doors might not close like all the way as it started going up. I mean, that freaked me out. Never heard any ghosts or anything, but just how old the elevators were and everything that was super creepy. And it was like every time. I mean, they never worked properly.
I'd be curious if I'd ever had a chance. I don't know any faculty or students at Austin Peay, but if I ever got the opportunity to talk to anybody there who's in the know about some of the legends of the Traherne building, I'd be curious to hear, because I wonder if there are any other kind of differing accounts on this. Because, of course, I'll stress right now, none of these reports are verified or substantiated in any way. They're just kind of fascinating to me, and I thought, these would be some cool locations to go check out. I'm the type that if we had spotted some kind of ghost or something weird, I would have been more excited than scared, I think. Like, there it is! There's one right there!
And I've been calling 911 if I don't know what they would do. But...
I would totally be like Ray Stantz from the Ghostbusters, just so excited that I'm seeing something that's actually paranormal. Well, okay, I'll move on to the last thing that was on our list that we went to visit, and this is Rest Haven Memorial Gardens. And
oh yeah, this is my favorite.
This especially excites Amanda because this haunted location is really close to where we live.
It is, and as I'm sure you can tell by the name, it is a cemetery. And it's one that, it's really interesting. Some of them, like the graves around the outside of the cemetery, there's, of course, like a road that goes through it. And the ones closest to the road are, instead of being like stone markers, they're actual benches that you can go and sit on. And I've just never seen that before. So I thought that was really cool that these people, I guess they chose that. I don't know if the cemetery just does it or if the people who passed away had set that up before. But they're actually benches, and of course engraved in the bench is the person's name and, you know, the birth date and the death date and all that. And some of them are actually couples. But it was really, really interesting to see because we'd never seen something like that before. I mean, the closest we had seen would be the benches, the memorial benches in Salem. But it was just really neat. And it goes along the perimeter of the road. And one other thing that we really liked about it is we've driven by it before, and we thought, oh, that's a nice little, like, graveyard. We should explore that sometime. But what we found out was that it actually goes...
It goes way
forever.
Back. Yeah, it's really deep back there.
It just keeps going and going and going. And so that was really cool.
Let me just read the legend about this, the supposed haunting in this place. It says that behind the gardens, there's a house that was once the home of a slave owner. And the rumor has it that one of his slaves forced himself upon the slave owner's daughter and got her pregnant, and the master then killed that slave. And it said that the slave's ghost roams the house and the grounds looking for his child. And, of course, while we were driving around, that's the sort of thing we were looking for, any spectral, paranormal-looking figures out just roaming around around the outskirts of the cemetery or even in it or wherever. And, of course, all we saw was one other car passing through. I guess the ghost could have been driving that car, but I kind of doubt it. Why would a ghost need a car, right?
But I think we did see the house while we were there.
We did get all the way to the back, and we spotted it. I assumed this was the house, kind of in the distance. It was dark, so it was a little tough to see. But
yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, those who know me well know that I have always had a fascination with graveyards ever since I was little. And so any excuse to go and explore one, you know, was a is wonderful for me. So, no, nothing super spooky happening. We did spot there was a neighborhood on to one side of it that, the houses, like, they're fenced in, but the houses back up right to the graveyard, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah, it was a cool setup, and then we ended up on kind of this, what to me was a little fascinating. There was this sort of side road that once you're back there, you can take to get out. Runs right alongside it, and we drove that out, and there's like this wall of trees between that road and the cemetery, and I think there was another row of trees on the other side, so it's like driving through this tunnel of just trees.
Yeah, it was really cool looking. Really neat up there, so.
Which, yeah, fascinating location. Didn't spot anything. Maybe someday I'll go back and try again. Probably without you, right? You won't go with me next time?
It depends. I don't know.
Well, from there, we'll move on to, I guess, what would be considered the ultimate haunted location in Clarksville, which is, of course, the Bell Witch Cave. We have not gone here yet for a couple of reasons. One is, of course, Amanda refuses to go.
No.
She's not going to go to that one, so it'll just be me. Maybe if I get to go, Drew will go with me. But their hours are a little bit difficult for me to coordinate right now along with my work schedule. I'm going to try to make this happen, though. I definitely want to go and visit this place because the story about it is fascinating. So I'll read a little bit of the details about that here from what I've got. The Bell Witch, or the Bell Witch Haunting, is a legend from Southern American folklore centered on the 19th century Bell family of northwest Robertson County, Tennessee. Now, John Bell Sr., who made his living as a farmer, resided with his family along the Red River in an area currently near the town of Adams. Now, according to legend, from 1817 to 1821, his family and the local area came under attack by a mostly invisible entity that was able to speak, affect the physical environment, and even change shape. Some accounts also record the spirit having the ability to be clairvoyant and able to cross long distances with superhuman speed and or be in more than one place at once. In 1894, a newspaper editor named Martin V. Ingram published his authenticated history of the Bell Witch, which is widely regarded as the first full-length record of the legend and a primary source for subsequent treatments. Now, in the legend synopsis in his book, Van Buren, let's see here, he claimed that the poltergeist's name was Kate, naming the entity, the entity claimed at one point to be old Kate Batts, and continued to respond to that name. The physical activity centered on the Bell's youngest daughter, Betsy, and her father, and Kate expressed particular displeasure when Betsy became engaged to a local man named Joshua Gardner. There's a whole lot of details about this that I could go into, so there's so much to this legend. It's really fascinating. I feel like we almost have to dedicate one whole podcast to this thing. So if I do get to go, if I pull off this little mission of mine, I'll provide as many details about that as I possibly can. And is there any way I can talk you into going with me? Why is that?
No. Nope. Because of what he said, there's way too many details about it. Lots of truth to the things that have happened based on what we know. And I just, as a Christian person, I say just because demons are real doesn't mean you gotta go looking for them. So, that is my stance on this. No, thank you. I prefer for the first paranormal thing that happens to me to be when I enter the gates of heaven when I die. So, I am more than happy not to.
I think for me, some of this just comes back to being a journalist for so long. So if someone said, hey, there was a ghost, I'm just like, well, tell me where to point the camera. I want to document this thing. I want to show the world what this thing was. So I believe that really knocks out every haunted location that I was able to look up. Give credit where credit is due for this information. The information I'm getting for the Bell Witch, of course, comes from Wikipedia, and the information that we found for most of the other places around town comes from Beaver 103, their website, beaver1003.com. And if you do decide to visit these places, they're not hard to find. You can put them into your GPS. I think the thing that I would just like to say first and foremost is, of course, be careful. Naturally, but more importantly, be respectful because, these are people's neighborhoods. When we went through here, we didn't just like shine spotlights around just looking for whatever we could. We drove around, just looked through the windows to see what we could see and then, left them in peace.
He means the car windows, not like we didn't get out and look.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Thank you for that. No, we did. No voyeurism going on. Just driving around, looking through the car, seeing what we could see. And when we saw nothing, we moved on. That was enough for us. Yeah.
More than enough for me.
Yeah, if you were invited to do some ghost hunting there by the residents, by all means. But yeah, we got no such invitation, so we kept to the street and we didn't stay long. We didn't wear out our welcome. At least I hope we didn't. That poor gentleman on the bike who saw he might have wanted us to leave.
Yeah, he probably was okay with us leaving relatively fast. Of course, as we always want to let you guys know to keep up with what's going on here at Schorr Manor, to see our preparations for Halloween.
Yes,
Head over
indeed.
to facebook.com/Schorr Manor and like our page.
We also have a Patreon page if you want to follow us there and help us cover some of the costs of podcasting. That's patreon.com/Schorr Manor. And you can also find information about me, if you would like, at my website, which is mattschorr.net. You can also find me on Twitter at @TheMattSchorr and on Instagram at @TheSchorr. And Amanda is also on Instagram. I'll let you provide your Instagram handle.
So my Instagram handle is @AmyG411.
All right. And last but not least, of course, I do have one other podcast.
Sorry, it's not. It's @AmyG11. I don't even know that was my old Twitter name.
Okay. Well, and last but not least, I want to make mention of my ongoing monthly podcast that I also do, if you care to check that one out, called Tales from a Small Town Journalist. All about some of the just goofy and strange, really unique tales that you're only going to get while covering small town news for small community newspapers like the two that I have worked for in my life. But I believe that brings this episode to a close. So do we want to close this thing out the way we always do?
Absolutely.
All right. Happy haunting.